Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for a little bit of pre-modern action for you. This is a deck that I've been working on myself in paper as well as online, and I wanted to give it another spin on the channel. This is DEADGUY ALEBOMB. So we're taking some of the things from DEADGUY Ale, you know, like being a black-white dark ritual deck with Swords to Plowshares and Vindicate, but then we're changing up. Instead of having like a bunch of small creatures like Hypnotic Spectrum, that sort of jazz, we are trying to play some bigger creatures. So we've got ourselves Twisted Abomination and Eternal Dragon. These both have 2 mana cycling for a basic land. So this gets us plains and this gets us swamp. This means that we have lots of things we can do on turn 1 with Dark Ritual. The best of them being cycle this and then reanimate it. Yep, we are a filthy reanimator deck today. So that's kind of the main way we're trying to win the game, is to just cycle one of these and reanimate it. So we have 4 reanimates and 1 exhume. The Exhume could be an animate deck, but I didn't want to play anything that could be targeted by naturalizers, because a lot of people run like a couple of naturalizers in their main deck. I just want them to have dead cards with that. And because we have the Withered Wretch anyway, we can hopefully remove cards from the graveyard, so the Exhume won't really matter. And most of the time, no one's going to have anything as good as like Exalted Angel, Twisted Abomination, or the Eternal Dragon. Aside from that, we've got some hand disruption in Duress, and then we've got a couple of Funeral Charm. This is mainly here so that we can interact with creatures very early on. Things like the Goblin Lackey that can come down on turn 1. You do need to be able to pass the Goblin Lackey test in this format, and this is going to help us do that. It can also flex into being a piece of discard at key moments, and sometimes we do actually +2 our creature or give something Swamp Walk, and that can be useful too. That's pretty much what we're doing here. We are 21 lands. I'm still tinkering with the actual land count in this deck, but because we have all these cyclers, we can definitely cut lands, so whether or not 21 is too few, we'll find out today. Sideboard wise, we've got the most interesting card is probably Festering Goblin. This is for the aggro matchups. So a lot of creatures in this format are 1 toughness. So Festering Goblin can kill 1 in combat and then trade with another one using its -1 ability. Or it can trade with a 2 toughness creature as just a 1-drop. So this is actually a pretty solid card I think more people should be playing. We've got ourselves 4 Gerrard's Verdict. This gives us the ability to board into more hand disruption, and we can try and grind some decks out that way. So if someone's not committing to the board, we need to be attacking their hand. We've got Engineered Plague, Plague Splitter, and Infest as more ways of dealing with creatures. We've got ourselves a Disenchant, and then we've got 1 Warmth and 1 Circular Protection Red. So we've both options here, so that if we board them both in and we draw them both, they're not one of them going to be dead. Obviously, multiple Warmths can be pretty good, but we just want slightly different effects that are good against red decks. And we have the Exalted Angel that we can just sit back and rely on to gain us some life sometimes. Rounding out, we have a couple of pieces of Graveyard Hate, and that's about it. So this is the list we're playing today. I think last time we played it on the channel, I think we went 4-1. I can't remember. We're going to see how we fare today. Like I said, this is something that I'm testing in paper, and I wouldn't mind taking to a tournament if I can kind of smooth down the rough edges of it and get it in a place I like. All right, like and subscribe, and let's jam. If you are looking to buy some Magic cards, not only does 3for1 Trading have a wonderful online store linked in the description of this video, but they will also have booths at upcoming events. MagicCon Atlanta from the 26th to 28th of September, Eternal Weekend Pittsburgh from the 9th to the 12th of October, and Spiel 25 in Essen from the 23rd to the 26th of October. Whether you're looking to sell off cards you don't need or add more to your collection, 3for1 Trading has got you covered. Alright, our opening hand is not great, so we're going to send this one back. We don't have any coloured mana. We'd need to find another mana source for this to work. But if we find another mana source, this one still isn't turned on. I think we're going to have to mull to 5. Not a great start for us, but this is fine. We keep this. We get back 1 Swamp, I think. Is the Exalted Angel a thing for later, or is that okay to have now? I think I'm going to put back the Exalted Angel. We already have a potential threat in this Twisted Abomination if we can find a Reanimate. And we need to find some mana to get the Angel working anyway. We don't really want to be hit with discard on the first turn, but here we are. So we're going to lose a Duress or a Vindicate this turn. Right, they took our Vindicate. This might not be a matchup where we have a lot of targets for our Duress. Well, we drew the Angel back. That's something. Let's Duress our opponent. What are you working with here? Nothing that we can hit. Good times. So this is the mono-black Clerics deck. There are a lot of mono-black decks in this format. In fact, I think we played one last week on the channel. I tend to play a lot of black decks. I was looking at all the decks I have in paper for this format, and they're all black. So I've got like a Jund, Golgari, a black-white, and a mono-black so far. Right, there is the port. They're just going to spend this turn porting us. That's fine. They didn't. Okay. So we can cycle one of these if we want to. The Eternal Dragon is a better one to cycle because when it's in the graveyard, then we get extra text off it anyway. Whereas this one, we might want to cast it for 6 mana at some point. All right, let's just plain cycle. We'll be done with it. They do have a Withered Wretch, which is relevant here. So we do want to keep one reanimation target in our hand that we can cycle at the right time. Caves of Koilos. They still didn't do anything with their port. What does that mean for us? Probably means we're just morphing this creature in, I guess. They could have a removal spell. It's certainly possible they've drawn something like a Smother here. And here it is. Yep, there is a Smother. Goodbye, Exalted Angel. But now we have 2 things that are worth reanimating in our graveyard if we can find a Reanimate. They also need to find a black source to play the Withered Wretch, and they can only take out 1 creature. Now they can take out in response to our Reanimate. I imagine we're seeing the Withered Wretch here. No, we're going for the Rotlung Reanimator first. Maybe they haven't clocked that we're trying to reanimate stuff yet. Okay, I guess we'll just play out a Swamp and pass. So the turn we played out the Angel, we had the option of not playing anything since they weren't using their Rishdan port. They clearly had removal, so we just forced them to keep holding stuff up. But the issue with that is our opponent then gets on board at some point, and then we play a guy, then they remove it and they continue. So it kind of ends up coming out in the wash. And this way we just have better options if we draw Reanimate. So I think it was right to play it out into the expected removal spell. Right, we've got the Cabal Arkham. So they can sacrifice this Rotlung Reanimator and get a zombie. They can start sacking with the Wretches in the future as well. I don't like the way they play this. They could have left this with black mana up. So they could have sacrificed this. Or sacrificed something in response to removal. Because we could like draw a plow this Rotlung Reanimator and they get nothing out of it. So we should take 2 from this Rotlung Reanimator. We're getting close to playing a Twisted Abomination, which is pretty large by Premodern standards as creatures go. Another Tainted Field. Oh, sorry, this is our first Tainted Field. It just looks very similar to Caves of Koilos. Okay, so next turn we can play a Twisted Abomination. We won't have the mana to regenerate it until the turn after, but we might just be forced to play a big body that can sit and play. I don't know realistically how many answers our opponent has to a 5/3 black creature. Like Smother doesn't kill it, Snuff Outs don't hit it, Spinning Darkness doesn't hit it. There's not a lot that they can be running that will deal with it. Right, we are finally seeing one of the Wretches. So we should get attacked for 2. It feels like they're going to port us, which leaves us still able to draw a Reanimate and just get this Exalted Angel in. Which I think is where we need to be right now. We're getting ported. We probably port down the Tainted Field. They're going for the Caves, okay. This is the dual land as well. A Sword to Plowshares, you say. I think we will plow this guy now so they can't get additional tokens. And then if we draw a land, we can make an A-bomb. I think we're just going to see attack for 4, play out a Withered Wretch, hold up port. Right, they're getting rid of our Eternal Dragon. So that last turn was also a turn we could have got back the Eternal Dragon if we wanted to. Maybe that would have been the correct thing to do. Take a blast here. Okay, I think we have to cast the Twisted Abomination at this point. And hope they can't answer it. And then once we start getting the regen shields on it, we'll be in good stead. Now our opponent can attack kind of through this. And just go wide and just hit me down for a decent amount. And then they can sack whatever we block. So they still get to hit him for 6 this turn. Priest of Gix. This is going to add 3 mana to their pool and be a cleric. So this allows for some of their more explosive starts. They can Dark Ritual into this, as many copies of this as they have, and then play out their 1 to 3 drops alongside it. And they can assemble 6 power relatively easily on turn 1. Alright, they're draining us for 2. Draining us for 2 again. And again. I don't like that. I think you attack, get the damage in, and then you drain us and kill us. In the course of like a couple of turns. Now, we're probably still going to lose this game because we haven't really got enough stuff going on. But that could change. Alright, Caves of Koilos, I think it's the Tainted Field you should be hitting there. Reanimate doesn't work very well for us. Probably do something with Exhume here. Okay, I think we play out the Withered Wretch. I think we need to attack here. I could take one of my opponent's cards, but they only need one of the cards in their hand to be relevant for them to win. Because we're not going to be able to clock them quick enough. A Polluted Delta. A Cabal Archon. So they can sacrifice both guys. I guess we hold up this Funeral Charm and hope that our opponent plays around us having a card in hand. I feel they're just going to sacrifice both Cabal Archons. We can't really do much about that. There's the first one. So I think getting the dragon back before wouldn't have made any difference to this one. So I think we was right just to try and draw something. Alright, so we go to the sideboard against Mono Black Clerics. This should be not that difficult for us, really. Their removal is not very good against us. We have the ability to kill their creatures quite effectively. Like Infest is good here. Plague Splitter is not incredible. The Engineered Plague also isn't that good because a lot of their creatures are big enough to survive this sort of thing. We would need that and something else. We could just smash in some Gerrard's Verdicts and take away some of our opponent's resources that way. We don't need Funeral Charms in this matchup either. So we could bang in 3 of these, and that just makes any sort of resource trade game a lot easier for us. So the Festering Goblins deals with 2/2s, which is why I like it here. Yeah, I think that'll do. This is kind of a weird hand. I think we keep it though. Not the most impressive Dark Ritual turn, but it sets us up for a better turn 2 as well. So we go Dark Ritual, we'll cycle this Eternal Dragon to get our planes for the Verdict, and then we'll deploy the Festering Goblin. So because we have all these cyclers, we just have the ability to use Dark Ritual effectively on our turns. More so than a regular DEADGUY AL deck, which, if it doesn't have Hypnotic Spectre, sometimes doesn't really get to use all the mana from a ritual. So we basically just cycle this into being a plains whilst also enabling a graveyard shenanigan. Dark Ritual from our opponent. Let's see how many things they dump out. A Duress. So we lose the Verdict or the Vindicate. We lost the Verdict, okay. Oh, we're losing everything. That's not so good. We do have some inevitability with this Eternal Dragon, but we know our opponent is running Withered Wretch. They'd be able to take that out at some point. Oh, another Dark Ritual. A Priest of Gix. Are they going to play their entire hand? Festering Goblin looking pretty good on this board right now. Rotlung Reanimator. Okay, so if we block this, then it kind of trades with this, and then they get a 2/2, which isn't great. Swords 2 Plowshares, you say. I think we just plow this guy now, and then we have the ability to trade this for their creature. If they have a follow-up creature, we might want to save this to block a 2/2 of some description. We can certainly take 2 damage without too much worry here. Dark Supplicant. That's a good one. So they can't attack here because they just lose both their guys. So what you do is they sacrifice 3 clerics and they get Sign of Darkness, which is a 6/6 trampler. Okay. I guess we're just going to reanimate a 5/5 dragon. And that should be pretty good. We can attack here because our opponent can't really block. They lose their entire board if they block the Festering Goblin. It is funny, I didn't want to bring in Engineered Plague and our opponent drew both of their 1 toughness clerics. So they play a cleric here, they can sacrifice 3 and get the Sign of Darkness. Snuff out. Sure, that's 4 life. So they get to jam in for 3 here. And then we're going to have to start holding back this Festering Goblin. A Swords 2 Plowshares. I guess we're just going to sit on this for a little bit. We can fire off a Swords 2 Plowshares on the Sign of Darkness if we get it, and then we just end up taking out a whole chunk of their board. So we actively want them to get the Sign of Darkness at this point, because then we get rid of 3 of their cards effectively. A Dark Ritual, sure. A Cabal Archon, sure. Are you just going to go and get a Sign of Darkness now? That would be ideal for me. Is this at any speed, is it? At any speed. Okay, I guess we do this. It forces our opponent maybe to get a Sign of Darkness, then we untap and kill it. Random Magic trivia, but the very first booster pack I ever bought contained a foil Sign of Darkness. Until then I'd only bought tournament packs and theme decks from Onslaught. That's kind of cool. Got a lot of love. I still have the exact foil Sign of Darkness I opened as well. Here it is, with its ugly modern border. Okay, so now what are we doing? Obviously we're just going to kill this and move on with our life. Get out of here, Sign of Darkness. So we traded 2 for 3 in that exchange because we forced the action to clean their board out. And then we just play another Festering Goblin. Not going to have a great time with 1 toughness creatures. And we can kind of hold back a 2 toughness creature as well. Our opponent's only on 1 land. A bit of a weird game, this one. I'll play this out. We're getting close to getting our Eternal Dragon back. Let's attack for 2. Get our opponent back down to their starting life total. Right, and we'll plane cycle this. This gives us the ability to get back our Eternal Dragon next turn. So our deck kind of has 2 very different modes. We have we go really fast and reanimate something, but then we can also just have this late game where we just have the recurring Eternal Dragon until our opponent loses, which is nice too as well. Are they going to Richard Port me in the upkeep? Well, we're just going to bring this back anyway, so there's not really much doing for them here. A Withered Wretch, that's pretty cool. Swinging in with our Goblin-based clock. Shepherd of Rot, okay. So they're not going to be porting us down this turn. 1, 2, 3. I guess we can't get this and play the Withered Wretch. I think we're just going to get the Wretch into play here. And keep sending. So if we draw a land naturally, we can just cast this Eternal Dragon anyway. Which is pretty good. Our opponent's end step, we're going to strip out a bunch of stuff from our opponent's graveyard. The Shepherd of Rot doesn't have many zombies. Like, you basically just have the Rotlung Reanimator. This guy, the Zombie Cleric. For each zombie on the battlefield. So the Withered Wretch will hurt our opponent here as well. This is going to be part of the damage. But I think we win this race. Duress. You know the only card in our hand is an Eternal Dragon. And they're just trying to put more stuff in their graveyard for some reason. That's possible. Let's get rid of all their creatures out of their graveyard. Let's get rid of this Cabal Therapy while we're here. I'm not going to pay, because if we draw a land, we can just play it. Okay, we didn't draw a land, but we can attack for a bunch here. If they tap their Shepherd of Rot, it will deal 3 damage to each of us, and then they're very dead. Engineered Plague also does impact our own Withered Wretches. Maybe we do want the Engineered Plagues. Or the Plague Spitter. Maybe the Plague Spitter is a bit better, because it gets the beat down as well, which is nice. Festering Goblins are solid. Angel's a nice way to recover. Maybe it's one of the verdicts, and we just keep Plague Spitter in. I don't think we want the Engineered Plague. Like, we can have Engineered Plagues over Gerrard's verdict. And they did show us more clerics than I thought they would have. So maybe we do want the plagues. Let's try it with the plagues anyway. We're still exploring this deck. I don't think this one gets us where we need to go. This is pretty good. Get rid of this Vindicate, I think. So if our opponent doesn't duress us, we have a pretty good turn 1. I wonder if they're running Cremate or not. Or Coffin Purge. We haven't seen that yet. I'm not going to play around it. Right, Dark Ritual. Swamp Cycle this little guy. He's not really that little, is he? He's quite a massive friend. Let's get back our Twisted A-Bomb. Alright. We've dropped the A-Bomb, and now we can just protect this with various pieces of removal. Like this Vindicate, if we can find a white source, and the Plague Spitter to clear out some little friends. And we can just keep making sure we pay black for our Twisted Abomination's regen. Just give it a regeneration shield while we're here. That is a 4-turn clock. A lot of the best creatures in Premodern in terms of like their power and toughness for rate tend to come from the last block in the set of like the Onslaught. But, you know, there's some good stuff. Other good creatures all the way down, but do I care about this? No. You can take my Dark Ritual. That does mean that we don't get to cast any cards in our hand. Okay, they went for a Vindicate. That's what they're scared of. Interesting. How they plan on dealing with this 5/3. Alright, we'll regenerate our creature. It's just a good habit to be in. So I can either play this Withered Wretch, or I can hold up the regeneration on Twisted Abomination. How do I lose this game if Twisted Abomination is still in play? That is the question. And I don't think we do. So we're just going to ride this bad boy all the way. Diabolic Edict is something our opponent could have. Rotlung Reanimator. This gives them chump blockers twice. But this turn we get to play our Withered Wretch if we want it. Or do I want to get my Plague Spitter in? It's going to be stripping down a bunch of their little creatures. Okay, I think we go for the Plague Spitter here. This also will poke our opponent down a little bit as well. Alright, they've had enough, and the Twisted Abomination gets there. Cool, let's go to round number 2. This hand is acceptable. We'll keep it. A blue mana source into a Portent. So there's quite a few blue decks in the format, from like Tide Control to Land Still, Mono Blue Dreadnought, a whole bunch of things. So we need to kind of keep an eye on what our opponent's doing and see if we can work out what they're up to. Alright, I will just play out a Swamp, and I think we're just passing here. A Shivan Reef. So this could be like the Counterburn style decks, or it could be the solution, which, not the solution, the I suppose it is the solution, isn't it? The Lightning Angel deck. We just play out as Tainted Field. We just keep making land drops, and then we can start firing off these Vindicates. Just lightning bolt us to the face. Okay. We'll cycle this Eternal Dragon. Get planes. Play out the planes, and we're going to Vindicate this Shivan Reef. I suspect this gets interacted with by our opponent. Another lightning bolt to our dome, and the Vindicate worked. Okay, I guess we're going to continue firing Vindicates at our opponent then. The Shivan Reef. We're seeing a gush out of our opponent, getting some cards in. Makes sense. Oh, we are a Dreadnought deck though. Interesting. Don't see a lot of blue-red Dreadnought. Phyrexian Rednought, I guess we'll call it. Vision Charm. That is an annoying one for us. I'm pretty close to just having lethal damage over there. Stifle would have been better for us. So this turn, I guess we Vindicate this land, and then in their upkeep we can hit this Phyrexian Dreadnought with the Source to Plowshares before our opponent has any mana to do anything with. So they can have foil here, which is what I expect them to have. No, they didn't. But they're on 30 life now, which is a bunch, isn't it? Okay. Let's play an Exalted Angel, I think, here. This doesn't get hit by red removal the same way Twisted Abomination does. And if our opponent wants to try and burn us out with stuff, this is going to make that very difficult. They might have things like Fire Eyes to tap this down and possibly some sort of bounce spell like Repulse, which is 3 mana, bounce a creature, draw a card. So, what do we want here? Well, step 1 is attacking. Can work that much out. Ice, yep, tapping it down, sure. Step 1 is no longer attacking. So I can Planescycle this. And then we can Swamp Cycle this in our opponent's turn, or we could just point another... I don't think we need to do another Vindicate here. Our opponent probably has Stifles if they're playing Dreadnought, so I'm just going to cycle this now and just get another land out of my deck. This gives us the ability to hardcast a Twisted Abomination. Right, they've got 3 islands over there, but no red sources. Let's see if they do anything to interact with our Exalted Angel. We can just start slamming down Twisted Abominations. Alright, 4 life is helpful. So we are above Phyrexian Dreadnought, damaged by a fair margin now. This Twisted Abomination can be killed by a Lightning Bolt this turn cycle if our opponent finds a red source. But they missed on red source before. And there's not a lot of red lands in their deck, really. They've got 2 Shivan Reefs. I can't imagine they've got many others. They probably have, like, 2 more Shivan Reefs, possibly the Grixis Lair land, and then some sort of Gemstone Mine type thing. But they're obviously playing lots of islands because they're running Gush and probably Daze as well. The amount of aces in this format are very difficult if you're in enemy colours. If you're in black, if you're in base black, it's not so bad because you have the Tainted Cycle, so you can kind of help it out here. And the fact that we're running Swamp Cyclers also means that Tavern of Colourless can help us get our colours here. But now our opponent is on a pretty substantial clock here. Sure, you can ice down my Angel. We're just going to keep adding meat to the board. And next turn we get back our dragon. I'm going to leave up a swamp here in case our opponent has access to a wasteland or something. We want to make sure we can always regen something. We have 14 power in play. That is more than a Dreadnought's worth. And we have an answer to a creature that can block. I can't imagine they have many creatures. Maybe they're running the Shivan Phoenix. But I don't think we care about Shivan Phoenix in this current board. That's a Dreadnought. How are we dealing with this? Is this a Stifle or is this a Vision Charm situation? It's a Stifle. So they might be saving a Vision Charm to try and deal with our interaction on their Dreadnought. Okay, I don't think we are buying back the dragon this turn. I think we're putting some regeneration shields up. Because we can attack into this, regen the one they block, and still force through 5 more damage. I guess we should probably just try and kill this first. I don't necessarily think this is going to work. I think our opponent must have a counterspell. We haven't seen counterspells yet. Alright, they've had enough. To the sideboard. I would like access to Gerrard's Verdict, please. I would also like this Disenchant. That's pretty good against the old Phyrexian Dreadnought. I don't think we want any of these things. I don't think we want these things either. Even though they have shown us some red cards, I don't think that's what this game is necessarily about. Funeral Charm isn't really required here, so that can go. Duress looks pretty darn good. Withered Wretch, not at its best here. It does attack and block. It doesn't block very well, but it attacks, I guess. I think dealing with the cards in their hand is more important. Alright, we're going to try like this and then see how we fare. We don't have access to our white mana here. Now, we have a lot of hits for white mana. Do I want to play a game with this hand? We're on the draw. I think we will keep it. We've got stuff to do. Not a lot of stuff to do, but we got some stuff to do. Okay, Vindicate isn't the one here. Let's Duress our opponent. See if we can stop any sort of scary friends coming into play. Okay, they've got Gush and Impulse. Grim Lavamancer is interesting. What am I more worried about here? The Gush or the Impulse? Impulse is just 1 for 1. I'm going to take the Gush. I don't want my opponent to have card advantage. Because that's how things get out of control. A couple of Grim Lavamancers though. Didn't see those coming. So our opponent can Impulse in our turn. Reanimate, you say? I don't hate that for next turn. Prefer if this was an Eternal Dragon and just turn everything on. But we've got a bunch of the Tainted Lands. We've got the 3 planes in our deck, the 4 Eternal Dragons, and the Caves of Koilos. That's what, 15 cards in our deck that get us white mana? I think we're odds on to hit that. And this format is relatively slow, so we have time. A Lotus Petal. That is a red source. We will need to find an answer for Dreadnought. Well, we have the answers for Dreadnought. We need to find the mana to cast our answers for Dreadnought. Nothing else going on for our opponent here. Let's cycle the A-bomb. We'd love to draw a Plains. We did not draw Plains. Can I have a Twisted Abomination, please? Step 1, we have a threat. Okay, here we go. The Dreadnought is coming along. It's interesting that they're not using the blue mana for this. Alright, so there is a Stifle. So this kills us in 2 hits. Now we can block 3 of that damage. But we need to find a white source here. We found a white source. We only have 1 white source. Our opponent has 1 mystery card in hand. They could cast a counter spell here. We can play around a Daze. They could cast a Vision Charm. I think we should try and do this in their upkeep, but then we don't get to attack if we do that. Let's go for the Vindicate on it. If they have the counter spell, it does cost them the Lotus Petal. And then next turn we can try and kill this and we can soak up some damage. By doing it now, we get to see if we can attack this turn or not. A Vision Charm. Okay. That is one of the things I suspected might happen. So this means we are blocking and soaking up 3 damage and regenerating, and then the turn after we can fire something like a Disenchant or a Plow at it. Our opponent's going to have 1 mystery card in hand again. If we can find a white source, then we can kind of empty their hand first and then disenchant this. I will block here. Let's regen it. So we're going to take, what, 9 off of this? Our opponent is trying to assign damage to our creature. And they were struggling with... I think they were trying to put more damage on our face, but they have to deal lethal damage to this first. There's one of the Lavamancers we know about. This could be a problem. This is why we want to use a Disenchant on the Dreadnought. They have 1 card in hand. I think we're supposed to disenchant in our... Okay, they've played the land out. Now it's fine. I was going to say we're supposed to disenchant our opponent's upkeep, but we can definitely kill this. And we just need to not die to these little guys. Okay. So we probably... we want to get this in to play this turn. So we can either take 1 card out of the graveyard or take 2 cards out of the graveyard. It doesn't really make much difference either way right now. So I think this is disenchant. We disenchant this. Then we attack. Because we can shoot our own Twisted Abomination. That's a thing we're allowed to do. So we can gain 5 life off of this. We can't regenerate it if that happens, but it'll keep us alive against scary Grim Lavamancer activations. So I imagine they just sit here. They have a lightning bolt, they can fire at our Twisted Abomination, but I think we need to start stripping cards out of their graveyard. This does give them a window. They can kill our Twisted Abomination with a lightning bolt. But that's a lightning bolt not being pointed at our face. So I'll take that. Yep, so they're going to exile the card that we're exiling. They're targeting the Withered Wretch. Sure, that saves us a little bit of damage. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. We could Gerrard's Verdict ourselves, but not yet. We could try and Gerrard's Verdict our opponent here. Try that one out. Maybe they've got a land. It was a Daze. Okay, so I guess we attack for 5 with the Twisted A-bomb here. This means our opponent gets 3 damage in next turn. He's probably going to force our hand with a Swords to Plowshares soon. I'll play this out. Yep. They come in for 1 here. They get to shoot us for another 2. Because they have 2 Lavamancers, we can't just answer 1, which is annoying. There's another Plains. Puts our opponent to 5. So they're going to shoot us in the end step here, and they're going to untap. Oh, they didn't shoot us. That's kind of a big deal. Why didn't they shoot us? This will put us to 1 when they activate the Lavamancer. They could have a lightning bolt here. 5, 6, 7. We don't actually get to play out this Eternal Dragon, which is kind of frustrating. They have to block here. And they shoot us in the face. And now we have 2 options. We can either, on 1 life, kill this guy. We're dead to any burn spell our opponent draws. We could hit this, and then that gives us 5 additional life. So next turn we go down to 4. The turn after we go down to 2, and then we die. So we're dead to Lightning Bolt, but this gives our opponent more turns to draw Lightning Bolts, right? No, because we have 2 turn cycles. So We kill them the same rate either way. Alright, I think we just plow this. It works out the same either way, I think. Because if we plow this, next turn we play the guy, then we deploy an attack, and then they die 2 turns after. They die 2 turns after we plow this guy. They have the lightning bolt. Yeah, we can't beat that. Okay. Maybe I want some stuff for those little pesky Lavamancers. Maybe we do want some Withered Wretches back in. They can also pressure our opponent's life total in a meaningful fashion. But Gerrard's verdicts didn't seem as good as I thought they were going to be. So maybe we can call on those a touch. Maybe we just have a 2 of these and 3 Wretches. I guess we mulligan this one. Yeah, this one is pretty good. Duress into Cycle into Reanimate. Not bad. One of these cards has got to go. It's probably a Swamp. I'm going to be cycling for a Swamp in a minute anyway. Let's see what you're cooking with over there, opponent. Lightning Bolt, Lotus Petal, Portent. Okay. An interesting selection of cards, for sure. Take the Portent, I think, here. Although the Lightning Bolt is kind of irritating for what I want to do right now. But it's not right now, is it? Interesting. We're not really kitted out to beat a Dreadnought. Are we supposed to take the Vision Charm so we don't die to Dreadnought? We can take the Portent so they can't find the Dreadnought. We can take the Lightning Bolt so they can't kill our Twisted Abomination. Those are sort of the main options I'm thinking about here. That's tough. I think it's the Portent. Shivan Reef. Caves of Koilos. So we get to Duress and Reanimate in the same turn cycle. That's pretty good. Lotus Petal. So we've got a decent idea of what's in our opponent's hand here. There's only one mystery card. Let's Swamp Cycle. Let's Duress our opponent first. During Hardcaster Days, I will pay. They have a foil, nothing to pitch to it. They have a Lightning Bolt I don't really want them to have. So we're going to take the Bolt. Going to land out. Get this Twisted Abomination in. I guess they could cast Ice to draw a card to see if they find an island to then pitch to their foil. Right, they drew a Shivan Reef for turn, so we don't really have to care about anything our opponent's doing. We can just keep sending our Voy in. We can play an Exalted Angel, wanting them to Hardcaster Days against it, and then reanimate it. It's pretty cool. But if we draw a land, we obviously don't need to do that. But then if our land isn't a white source, we maybe want this to be countered so that we can reanimate it. Interesting. Right, let's attack with our Twisted Abomination. We're getting fired. Sorry, iced even. Sure, you can ice our guy. And then I'll play a Morph. They're going to have to give up their Lotus Petal if they want to interact with this Morph. Unless they have an island in hand and they have to give up 3 cards. And then we just reanimate it. So Hardcast Days? Yeah, they're playing into our trap. We don't even have the second white for this. This just means we get to bring it back next turn. Our life total does go low, but we get a little friend that makes a big difference. This does give our opponent a window to possibly kill our Twisted Abomination, though. That was kind of the only way that we could realistically get this into our graveyard to try and reanimate. I'll put us to 8, which is a reasonable life total. A Vindicate. That's not really where I want to be right now, but it's nice to have an answer for their potential Dreadnought. Alright, I would like an Angel, please. No play from our opponent. That's not really where you want to be when you're staring down this amount of pressure, opponent. We can top our life total up a little bit here. We've got 2 answers for Dreadnought now. And our opponent has 2 lethal threats to deal with. They found an island, but I think it's too little too late here. Like, that was something they wanted to keep in hand for a foil, I would imagine. But yeah. Okay, our opponent sees a writing on the wall and they have scooped it up. So we are 2-0 with the Dead Guy Alebomb. Let's go to round 3. I don't think we get to keep our opening hand here. Oh dear. This has some of the same problems. 2 draw steps to find a land. I don't think we can do that. Okay. This one is fine. We've been off an Angel and a Vindicate here. We can drop an Eternal Dragon on turn 3. That's okay. If we draw a Dark Ritual, we can drop it on turn 1. Now our opponent looks like they're going to be playing some blue stuff. Our opponent is a renowned tempo player in Legacy, so we're curious to see what they're playing here. Probably Dreadnought, I would guess. Opt. Feels like a Dreadnought deck. Another Opt. Okay, we have a Swamp. We can attempt to make a 5/5. This also fixes our mana, which is nice. Mox Diamond. Are we looking at some sort of Miracle Grow deck? Maybe not Dreadnought anymore? It's like Quirion Dryad. It is the Quirion Dryad. You got it. Plane cycle this. Let's reanimate our angel. Sorry, not our angel, it's a dragon, isn't it? I don't think we need to cycle this Twisted Abomination, but we can. If our opponent, let's say, Swords to Plowshares our creature, then we can just go and put the Twisted Abomination in the bin and get another creature next turn. Because the plow will pretty much cover up most of the damage you lost to the Eternal Dragon, so it'll be healthy enough to go again. A Meddling Mage. Sure. What are they going to name here? Swords to Plowshares if they don't want us to kill their guys. Yeah, Swords to Plowshares. Okay, so how are they going to kill our creature? That is a real conundrum for them. Let's blast this Dryad before it can start doing more damage. I could reanimate their Quirion Dryad, because then all of our spells will trigger it. But I think we're better off holding out for this Twisted Abomination to do something. How are they going to answer our creature if they can't cast a Swords to Plowshares? Uncertain. So we'll be trading a little bit of damage back and forth, but after this turn cycle, we'll be ahead on the damage race. A Meddling Mage. So we both have 3-turn clocks, but our clock comes in first. So we should be okay here. I'll play out this Tainted Field. We're pretty close to just playing this Twisted Abomination as well. Yep, so they crack in for 4 here. Puts us to 7. There's a City of Brass. There's another little Dryad. Let's try and get a big boy down. Days is unfortunate for us. So we have some options here. We can swing in for 5. Our opponent has 6 damage on the crackback. They need to not have a spell they can cast in their hand. Or we can hold this back. Are we supposed to go for it here or not? This is only going to get bigger and bigger. 4 cards in hand. One of them is an island. I think we have to hold back here. I think we should have Duress this turn instead. Let's Duress our opponent. Counterspell, Counterspell, Meddling Mage, Psychotox. So they did have a way of pumping their Dryad. Okay. It's getting tough. I don't know if we're supposed to play the land out. I don't think our opponent's playing Armageddon, but it's certainly possible. So I can play a Psychotog out here. Just playing another Meddling Mage. Sure. Taking some damages. They are growing their Dryad. So they're just going to keep playing guys out. And then they can go wide. Okay, then Twisted Abomination. So I'd quite like to draw another Eternal Dragon here. Dark Ritual doesn't cut it. We're in trouble. Sleight of Hand. That's going to grow the Quirion Dryad a bit more. Another land is not what we want. We've got plenty of mana. We need like Drain Life. Just, well, that doesn't work into the counterspell though. Nothing's going to work into the counterspell. Our opponent should be able to win this one. They've got enough land they can play the Psychotog and hold up counterspell. So I think they'll do that, and then they'll wait till next turn, then attack, and we're dead. Alright, so we're just going for the making the Quirion Dryad big enough to kill us. That's also a pretty viable plan too. I don't know how we get through this one. I guess we just take the 5 here. Like, a decent chunk of our deck is shut off by Meddling Mages as well. Yeah, I think we can call it there. Let's go to the sideboard. So this seems like a good matchup for the Verdicts. The Infest can kill a bunch of their little guys as well. The Festering Goblin is pretty good into their 2-power guys. I don't really like the Funeral Charms that much here. The Withered Wretch is fine, but not that exciting. Maybe we need to call it on some of our like Exhume. We can trim that. Maybe trim a Wretch. I don't think we get to trim any of these because this is part of our mana base. We need to keep our removal spells. Maybe we could trim like a Dark Ritual. And maybe it's just 2 Wretches that go. Something like that. Sideboard on this deck feels difficult to manage at times. We don't get to play with Gerrard's Verdict. I think that's fine. We've already established there's 15 white sources in our deck, which is pretty good rate. And we don't need them immediately anyway. Right, we'll begin with a Duress. If we can take something like a Mox Diamond, it can shut down our opponent's entire game plan. We didn't have one of those. What do we have? Daze, Sleight of Hand, Opt, Swords to Plowshares. Just some cantrips and some removal. We'll take the removal. And pass. So I think it's going to Opt in the end step. Makes sense. I could play into a Daze here. I could Dark Ritual around it. I could just do nothing, and that's also fine. And then we can Withered Wretch around a Daze next turn. And then we can Dark Ritual out a Twisted Abomination in a couple of turns. So having like your big splashy turn 1 plays, as well as having big things that you're okay powering out with a Dark Ritual ahead of curve, makes the Dark Ritual in this deck feel a lot better. What are you going to name here, opponent? Swords to Plowshares. Okay. We have other removal spells in our deck. Gerrard's Verdict. You are a Magic the Gathering card that we have. Let's play a Withered Wretch. Now we can start grinding away our opponent's graveyard. We can trade these creatures if our opponent wants to do that. I think I'm okay with that. There is a sleight of hand. Our opponent's almost got rid of all the cards that we knew about. That is a portent. Alright, they might have some threshold stuff in their deck. Keep that under wraps as best we can. They don't want to trade their Meddling Mage for our Withered Wretch. Otherwise they would have attacked. Our opponent has lost connection to the game. Hopefully they'll come back soon. Our opponent didn't come back. So I guess we win the match. On to round 4. This opener doesn't have enough lands. We're going to mulligan it. We only really need 2 lands to do our thing. Once again, we're in a little bit of a bind with our mana situation here. It's been fine so far, but I don't know if I want to risk it again. Okay, this looks much better. So we keep our 2 lands. We keep at least 1 cycler. Maybe we just keep the 1 cycler, that's fine. And then we get rid of the Angel or we get rid of the Vindicate. Probably the Angel. Just stick a big guy right into victory. What could possibly go wrong with that strategy? And we drew a swamp. Beautiful. We'll play this out so we didn't get wastelanded in the first turn cycle. We can just get the A-bomb going and try and win that way. There's a wasteland that we just played around. Ravenous Rats. Oh, baby. I'll discard this Twisted Abomination. I'll play this Tainted Field, and I will reanimate my Twisted Abomination, leaving up my black source to regenerate my Twisted Abomination. Thanks, opponent. You spared me up a turn. Now, we don't get the extra swamp out of that, and that could come in relevant if our opponent's like wastelands our Tainted Field out of the way. Duress. We're going to lose our Vindicate here. That's annoying, but I can live with it. They probably hit the Tainted Field here, so that if we pay for any white mana, it's going to cost us here, and we have like a choice between whether or not we regen our guy and Planescycle. Obviously, we can just Planescycle at the end steps. So that's probably fine. If they have a second wasteland, they can give us a moment where we have to decide about it. All right, what have we got here? Cabal Therapy. I guess we're losing our Eternal Dragon. It comes back later, but later is a little ways away. We are very much in the let Jesus take the wheel, and our Jesus is a giant zombie mutant. Sweet zombie Jesus. A plains. Okay, I will play out of plains. It does tell our opponent what we drew, but it means we can't be wastelanded, so that we could maybe drop a morph at some point without being wastelanded off of it. We won't play this out unless we have to. I think our opponent is likely playing the Moneyball Black deck, which I think we played last week on the channel. I think that deck looks pretty good. I think there's about 5 slots in the deck that I think are wrong, that need tweaking, but other than that, I think the deck looks really solid. Contagion. So this is going to kill our creature. Well, that's kind of annoying. Interesting timing. They let their rats die. Their rats around. I'll play out one of these caves I know about. I think we're in trouble now. We were hoping that their deck wouldn't be able to deal with it, and generally speaking, their deck can't really deal with it, but they did happen to have the card that just changed things. Alright, we lose this Caves of Koilos. I think our opponent is very far ahead here. I'm not going to plow a Ravenous Rats. I would plow a Mishra's Factory though, because that is one of the better creatures in their deck. They could play out something like a Hypnotic Spectre here. That would be worth plowing as well. A Nantuko Shade. Yeah, that certainly qualifies. I'm going to be mana efficient here and plow at the end step so we can untap and maybe cast like a Morph or something if we can draw it. No, I will play out a land though. Gets us closer towards our big 6 drops. A Dark Ritual from our opponent. Something big is happening. It's a Graveborn Muse. That's certainly a card I would like to destroy, but we don't have the ability to do that yet. Okay, so next turn we can buy back our Eternal Dragon. That's something. But we've got a clock we're up against here. It's 4 to 6 damage, so our opponent could just 2-turn us, which I think is the correct play here. Yep, so if we get back the Eternal Dragon this turn, then we're dead on the next turn anyway, and we have to take a point of pain from Caves of Koilos, so I think we are just going to take the damage, draw a turn. We're not going to bother with getting back the Eternal Dragon here. Wowzers trousers. There's a lot of boys. We can Vindicate this, but we're still dead to what's on board. Pretty decisive loss there for us. How do we improve things is the question. So, Festering Goblin is pretty good at dealing with some of their guys. Plague Spitter is fine. The Infest is fine. I don't think we care about their graveyard. I don't think we want to attack their hand because they empty their hand relatively quickly. Then we can take out an Exhume here. The Funeral Charms are actually pretty good. They kill the Nantuko Shade. They can kill Ravenous Rats if we care about that, but we don't really care about the Ravenous Rats that much. Oh, the Festering Goblin's better than the Funeral Charms. Not necessarily. Very hard. Maybe it's just we strip out 4 Duress, just have a bunch of removal in. That gives us one more slot we can add. We could take a Disenchant to deal with their Curse Scroll and potential Phyrexian Arena. This is fine. Our deck is a little bit synergistic, so sometimes we're going to have hands that are a little bit clunky looking. We're not just like a good stuff deck. But obviously the ceiling of what we can do, making turn 1 creatures that can win the game in a few swings, is pretty good. Dark Ritual from our opponent. What is this going to be? A Duress. Okay, we can lose the Ritual or the Charm or the Reanimate. Probably the Reanimate, unless they're going to play an Nantuko Shade. And then they get rid of the Funeral Charm. Right, I took the Reanimate. That is the most powerful card that we have in our hand. This is also pretty good against Reanimate. I guess we're just going to have Battling Witches here. I think it's more important to get on board than it is to plow this. We might have other targets we'd rather plow as well. Things like Hypnotic Spectre or the Nantuko Shade or Graveborn Muse if they ramp one of those out with another Dark Ritual. There is a Mishra's Factory. Cabal Therapy. Well, they know what we have. So they're going to take the Funeral Charm or the Ritual. And then if they want to, they can flash it back, sacrificing the Withered Wretch. I don't think it's worth sacrificing it. And then the Funeral Charm. So now they could play out a Nantuko Shade at some point. Yeah, it doesn't look like they want to... Oh, they want to offer this trade, do they? I'll take that trade. You don't get to Cabal Therapy here. Sure, you can take out a card that doesn't matter. And that leaves our main game plan online again. I will play this out. It allows us to conceal a little bit of information. I guess we're getting Cabal Therapy. They're going to take the Swords to Plowshares. We can cast a Twisted Abomination. Do need to draw it, though. It's a swamp. Let's pass. Mishra's Factory. In it comes. They can start pumping the factory as well. I imagine they have a play here, otherwise they would have activated the factory to pump this. A Nantuko Shade. Sure. There's a lot of damage coming our way next turn. A Festering Goblin, though. This can trade with a factory. It can block an Nantuko Shade and force them to pump to keep it alive. What would I rather trade with? We can trade this and just keep this off the board. That seems pretty good. Yeah, it means we're taking 4 this turn, and we're going to have to find an answer for this Nantuko Shade at some point. Okay, so they pumped this one after damage. I think that was a mistake. Alright, another land. So we can cast any of our top end if we draw them. So there's 8 cards that we can draw that would just be great here. A Wasteland, we don't care about that. We are flooding out. Activating the factory. I guess we do care in the fact that it's a thing that activates Mishra's Factory, so they can spend more mana pumping their Nantuko Shade. But if we find a Twisted Abomination, I think we can stabilize. Although we're at a very low life total. Swords to Plowshares. Get out of here, you. So we're on 2-turn clock, but we were dead if we didn't do that, so here we are. It doesn't feel like we've been remotely close to being in this game at any point. Right. Ouch. Oh, a Twisted Abomination. Okay. We're not dead. We're pretty close to dead, but we're still alive for now. They can put us to 1 so that we can't ever tap for white mana. But I don't know if our opponent will throw away their body to do that. It's a Phyrexian Arena, maybe. It's a Graveborn Muse. Sure, you can take out one of my lands. They're not attacking this turn, but we can't attack either. And they are just going to bury us in cards here. Eternal Dragon, you say? Alright, let's Planescycle this. It is annoying that we have to Planescycle it and put it into a zone where the Withered Wretch can eat it. But I think we need a pain-free source of white mana here. So our opponent can put us to dead on board, right? If they attack with everything, we just die. Let's see if they see the line, and we can just go to the next round. We are getting absolutely bodied here. Okay, exiling our little friend. Okay, they're not activating their factory, so they're missing lethal here. And I think we're still going to lose, though. A Withered Wretch. We get a Wretch in. So now if we attack with this, our opponent blocks. Our opponent doesn't block. They attack us with 3 things. We block 1, they take the others. Yeah, okay. I guess we have to hold back on blocks. Like we were dead last turn, so we don't really get to attack here. The Withered Wretch is giving them 2 cards a turn because it is a zombie, so it's pumping the Graveborn Muse's drawing ability. Ravenous Rats, just bodies is really problematic for us. We need to hit a bunch of runners in a row here. Phyrexian Arena. Our opponent's going to draw a lot of cards and lose a lot of life. Opponent has misclicked last turn, so maybe they misclicked through their combat in a way where they couldn't activate their guy. Oh dear. So if we block 3 things and we take 1, right? So we do cast this. It costs us a pain, which sucks, but here we are. So the way this works, this is a triggered ability, not lifelink. So we have to be alive and then this trigger resolves. But we can block here, here, and here. We take 1, then we gain 4. And then if our opponent doesn't kill us this turn, then we can start sending in the angel, and then we'll be in an okay position. We swing with everything. We block here, we block here, we block here, and then we end up taking a bunch of their board out. This is the big turn. Our opponent missed lethal a few turns ago, and that's allowed us to sneak back in. Activating the factory. They're trying to put us to 1. What am I missing here? This is not a good attack. If you attack with everything and you have like something little, maybe that helps. Okay, so we block here, we block here, we block here. We take no damage, we gain 4 life. We kill 3 of their things. Spinning Darkness. Okay. So we get to trade the Exalted Angel for their Spinning Darkness and their factory. But we are taking out a bunch of our opponent's things and we're gaining 4 life in the process. Alright, they're just funneling all their mana into the Withered Wretch here. That's a-okay with me. So we gain 4 life here, which is pretty big news. A Dark Ritual. I attack with this, they attack for 3. That doesn't feel great for us. I think we once again have to sit here staring at our opponent. We should have died a long time ago. Oh, they've got so many cards though. They can just trade resources and not care. Ravenous Rats. In response, I will Dark Ritual. And we'll start removing the cards from their graveyard. Make Spinning Darkness, if they have another one, harder to cast. Nantuko Shade. We can strip out the rest of their graveyard here. Another Dark Ritual, not the one we wanted. They certainly don't look great when you draw them in these situations. So we're holding back on blocks again. And just send in the Nantuko Shade and pump it big enough to survive our guy. Ravenous Rats. Sure, I'm not even going to do anything with this now. It's not worth the time clicking on it. Another Nantuko Shade. Okay, so this is lethal next turn if our opponent sends everything sideways. So we need a banger off the top. Because either of these are lethal, so we have to block them both and the rest... Well, it puts us to 1 actually. We're not 100% dead, but... A Vindicate. What do we even Vindicate here? One of the Shades? I think it's a card. It keeps us a little bit alive. We just... Nope, no, I'm not attacking with this. I'm just going to exile this and then move on. I'm taking 2 life a turn, but they're drawing so many cards. Surely they can just kill us at this point. Or just play like a creature with evasion like Hypnotic Spectre. That's so many swamps. So the Twisted Abomination is just on soaking up damage duty. They could swing all of these, trade a rats for a bunch of damage. Curse Scroll. Yep. That's pretty bad considering how many cards I have in hand. Cabal Therapy, targeting themselves. They're trying to empty their hands so they can Curse Scroll us. I have 2 Duresses. So get rid of both of the Duresses. Phyrexian Negator is an interesting one to play here. Dark Ritual, they play out the Negator. Then they can name... Oh, sorry, they took their own Negator out. Okay. It's quicker if you... I guess it doesn't make much difference either way, does it? Okay, so they're Curse Scrolling us. If we block here and here, we take 2, and then we die on the next turn. So we get 1 more draw step here. We should have been dead ages ago. Our opponent's deck has been absolutely smashing us to pieces. Alright, I think we'll just scoop this one up and see if we've got time to fit in our final round. It's been quite a long one so far today. We're into the final round. Yeah, we can keep this one. If they take a Dark Ritual, we still have another Dark Ritual. But we can make a turn 1 Eternal Dragon here. If my math holds. So, this is 3 mana. So we cycle this. To get planes. And then we can either Dark Ritual out this Exhume and just get it going on turn 1, which I think is what I want to do here. We cast Exhume. And then I don't think we want a Funeral Charm just to take a card to be mana efficient. I think we're okay here. So we spent a lot of cards to do that. And then we're just going to get Source of Plowshares. Boom. Yeah. That was always a possibility. Okay, so our opponent is possibly mono white. Double planes is an interesting start. A morph, you say? It could be anything. Let's delete that morph. It was an Exalted Angel all along. Who'd have guessed? it's always Exalted Angel. Okay, so we can probably cycle this Eternal Dragon, this turn cycle, and just start getting into the zone of bringing it back and taking the planes out of our deck. We only have 3 planes in our deck. An Eternal Dragon cycle from our opponent. I wonder if they are a cool like mono white control deck. It's something I've been thinking about playing myself. Haven't quite got the pieces together in terms of what that's supposed to look like and how it's supposed to beat like Tide. Doesn't seem like it does. Alright. We'll play our land and pass, and we're just in this zone that we find ourselves in a lot of time where we're kind of doing nothing. Okay, so they are just the mono black. Sorry, not the mono black, the black white control deck. Alright, so we're just going to get back our Eternal Dragon. Our opponent's going to get back their Eternal Dragon. And then this game's going to drag on, and we're going to lose to some number of Source to Plowshares that our opponent points in our general direction. Oh, they're cycling a Decree of Justice. That's different. We can take out one of these guys with a Funeral Charm. That doesn't seem like a great use of any of our resources. I think our plan is going to be getting back the dragon, cycling it, and then reanimating it. So that's like a 2-turn plan. Or we could just reanimate it now. I wouldn't mind getting that last planes out of our deck, just so we have access to it. Another Eternal Dragon, you say? I'll play our Tainted Field and pass. So our opponent is kind of like a white deck splashing black, and we're like a black deck splashing white. Are we seeing another Decree? Sure. So how many are they making this time? 2. That's fine. We'll get through it. If we draw a land, we can just play this Eternal Dragon. And we're going to go below our starting low total here. And a Dust Bowl. That can blow up non-basics, but we don't really care too much about that. 5 cards on our opponent's hand. Okay, let's duress our opponent. We're going to see a Skeletal Scrying here. There is the Scrying. They're leaving up some mana here. So what do we take here? They have 2 Swords to Plowshares, which kind of sucks for us. I don't think we get to win this game, is what actually happens here. Okay, so plane cycle for my last planes. And we'll reanimate our opponent's Eternal Dragon. That way if they exile it, we still have ours that we can get back. Okay. So we kind of got rid of one of our opponent's resources there. We took away their Plow and their Eternal Dragon. Now they do have another Eternal Dragon in hand, which is pretty scary. We are able to answer them. We've got Vindicate, which isn't the best answer. We've got Vindicate plus Withered Wretch, which is fine. We've also got Source to Plowshares, so we might be able to answer the dragon. But just these little guys are going to beat us down. I'll place Tainted Field out. I will cast this guy. Our opponent probably just does a little Skeletal Scrying here. Skeletal Scrying is such a good card. And plowing our guy. So we know they've got no more plows left in hand. And we've gotten through 2 of other ones. There's 1 more plow left in their deck. So they have 1 answer to Eternal Dragon that permanently answers it. Now in theory, we're better at permanently answering theirs because we have Graveyard Hate. But they could just deploy an Eternal Dragon here. And that kind of checks our Eternal Dragon. Okay. Would I like you to discard a card? Or would I kill one of your guys? I'll kill one of your guys. We are very dead. It's dragon time. Oh, I forgot to buy back my dragon. I think we're just dead here anyway. Let's just go to the next game. I think our opponent's too far ahead. They've drawn too many cards. And their deck is just pretty good against what we're doing. Alright, Gerrard's Verdict is pretty good here. I'll take a Furnace. Take a Disenchant. I don't really want any of these other things. Don't really want the Funeral Charms. Bringing back our guys feels really bad in the face of the things that they can do. So maybe we'll just sort of cool it a little bit on these things. Maybe, actually, the Reanimates are way better than Dark Rituals here. Just come off the Dark Rituals. We've got 1 Dark Ritual on the deck. I'll take an Engineered Plague and we can put it on Soldier. Or actually, no, I'll have a Plague Spitter because this is actually a win condition that beats down. Let's try this. I don't think we're going to win this game at all. Nope, we need another land for this to really work. This does work. I'll keep this. Get rid of this Caves. But we're way worse at playing the long game than our opponent is. So our deck just matches up horribly here. They're doing some of the same stuff that we are. Duress, Skeletal Scrying, Vindicate, Eternal Dragon. I guess we take the Skeletal Scrying. We can't let our opponent have more cards. If they duress and take 1 of our plows, that's okay. The Vindicate can be annoying because they can target our land. And here comes the Duress. We lose a plow. There is a swamp. We can get our little dragon into the graveyard and get ourselves a plains. Maybe that gives us the ability to Vindicate something. Maybe we try and Vindicate the swamp and just mess our opponent up so they can't play the game. Oh wait, we're not the one with the Vindicate. They're the one with the Vindicate. Why am I playing this out? Oh, this league has just gone horribly wrong for me. My poor little brain can't take anymore. There's no way that we should have played out this Plains because they're just going to Vindicate it now. Oh, they didn't. Okay. That's these two. I don't know how we're ever supposed to win this matchup though. Seems like we just get bodied repeatedly. I'll hold on to this for now. If I'm my opponent, I would have done this last turn. I think it's more important than verdicting us. Alright, there's a swamp. There's a swamp. Our opponent's got 3 cards in hand. They've got an Eternal Dragon in the graveyard. We have an Eternal Dragon in the graveyard, but we don't have any white mana. No play from our opponent. This could just be an end of turn decree. Okay, I'm happy to get Plains out of our deck here. We don't have many Plains in our deck though. I guess we play this out in case we can draw a Plains and then we can set up the looping Eternal Dragon, but then our looping Eternal Dragon is worse than our opponent's, I reckon. Because they have loads more control spells to protect and do stuff around it, whereas we're just kind of trying to slam it a little bit. And another Vindicate. Okay. I think I just want to scoot this game out. I'm going to take another draw step, and I think I'm done for today. Should we keep playing? Alright, we'll keep playing. We do have a Twisted Abomination. Maybe we get to put in play at some point. My heart's not in anymore. Yep, you get back your dragon. There's a reflecting pool. Alright, I'm just going to scoot this one up. I don't think we can win this one. This matchup looks unwinnable to me. Okay. So we finished with a 3-2 record. So I found playing this league, to be honest with you, very boring. And last time we played it was a lot more fun, but we haven't really changed much, which is weird. I think part of it is obviously like some of our opponents were playing a little bit slowly, but I think we just had so little agency in basically all of our games that we just kind of just played the cards as they were. And I don't really like playing Magic that way. I like to have resources and work about how I should be using them. A lot of this is like, do they have the thing? Do we get to kill them with our Abomination? Yes or no? And it's not particularly enthralling gameplay from my perspective. I don't really know what to do with this deck anymore. It doesn't feel great. Like, obviously, you know, we won a bunch of rounds, but then one of our opponents did leave. So we can't really count that as a win. It just felt like we were doing things that the black-white control deck does, but worse. Like, we do have this gear that we can pull of going fast, which is what you want to do against some of the blue decks. You get a threat in early that they maybe can't necessarily interact with, and then you make all their tricksy like counter spells and tides irrelevant. So it does have that going for it, but it just feels kind of miserable to play. And I feel we can definitely do something better here, but I'm not sure what that looks like. If you've got any thoughts, let me know. I'm kind of a little bit down on this one today, so any nice thoughts that you have about how to make this deck better, please let me know. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.